Just before we get cracking here today, gang, just one thing from the old health and safety announcement. The captain has asked me to reiterate. If you guys are on the top deck today, the top deck is where I am at the moment. Nice to see you. How you doing? Or if you do guys want to come upstairs later on, feel free to do so, guys. You can come upstairs, you can go downstairs, you can change around, whatever you like. But when you are upstairs, if you're taking photographs, we're going to ask you to please stay sitting down when you're taking your photos. And that's for two reasons. Number one, it's so you don't fall overboard and drown by leaning too far. And that wrecks the whole evening, to be honest. And the other reason is so our wonderful captain, we got Captain George in the wheelhouse behind us here. Captain George needs to have a nice clear view over the top of our heads as we navigate up and down the river. So please do not stand up and block his view, because I don't want to have a Titanic remake on the last cruise of the day, if possible. Also joining us on board, we have got Ben. He's dressed just like me. If you got any questions, you just ask Ben and he'll hook you up and sort you out. We have toilets located in the back of the boat downstairs, and they will be open for the whole journey, except at the end when we come back, when they are closed for cleaning. And yeah, that's about it, guys. So here we go, starting off, heading under Westminster Bridge here. You can see the river is very low at the moment, down to a couple of feet in this part of the river actually. So we'll be going a little bit slow here so we don't hit the bottom. Now over on the right hand side, guys, here we are right in the heart of the action, the Palace of Westminster, aka the Houses of Parliament over here. In fact, there's been a palace on this site going all the way back to the days of the Anglo-Saxons. This location, it used to be where the King and Queen lived, up until the rule of King Henry VIII. King Henry decided he wanted to move the royal family out somewhere even nicer, so he moved them all down to Whitehall, and he gave the building that was here at that time over to the government when it became the first ever Houses of Parliament. Now that original building, it did very, very well. It lasted all the way up until 1834, because in 1834 the Exchequer, the guy who was in charge of all the money, well, he was feeling a little cold one day. Oof, he was feeling ever so chilly. So he decided he was going to warm up by taking 2 cartloads of tally sticks and burning them in the basement of the building. Tally sticks were like long wooden sticks they used to use for measuring debts. Well, his plan definitely worked. It certainly warmed him up, because it started a huge fire and the original Houses of Parliament went up in flames. And now, of course, guys, as you can imagine, I mean, all the citizens in London, they were obviously very, very worried about all of their beloved politicians. So they all lined up along Lambeth Bank, which is just in front of us now as we turn. They all lined up along there and they began to cheer, "Burn, Parliament, burn! Burn, Parliament, burn!" One man did get arrested, though, for excessive cheering. So if you do want to cheer anything like that today, gang, you can, but just not too much, okay? Now as we turn, guys, if you look to your right, Lambeth Bridge over there you can see is painted red. And on our left, Westminster Bridge is painted green, also lit up red and green. And you might have also noticed that there's both red and green tenting along the front of the Houses of Parliament as well. And that is because green represents the House of Commons. Those are the democratically elected MPs who discuss new legislation. And the red represents the House of Lords, who are appointed by the King and the Queen, and they decide whether that legislation actually gets passed into the law or not. And both groups are kept totally separated in there. Separate restaurants, chambers, and even separate bars. And the whole idea is you keep both halves of the government separated from each other, just so there can be no accusations of corruption. There's no corruption in the UK, guys, is there? No, of course not, sir. Of course not. And ladies and gentlemen, I mean, we cannot go past the Houses of Parliament without mentioning the most famous clock in the whole wide world back there. You know that clock. You love that clock. But do you know what it's called? Big Ben? What? No? I'm afraid to say, if you did say that that was Big Ben, you are incorrect. Technically speaking, that is the Elizabeth Tower back there, because Big Ben is not actually the name of the tower, it's the name of the 13-ton bell that's inside that tower. And it was named after a guy called Benjamin Hall. He was the commissioner of the works, which means he was basically the boss man in charge of all the workers who had to actually physically install the bell and build the tower. And by all accounts, Mr. Hall was a big round guy who was very, very noisy and liked to tell all the workers that they needed to work harder and work faster. So when they installed the bell, they said, hey, hey, you know what else is round around here? Round and noisy, this bell. So we're going to name it after you, Ben. And it's been called River Thames. When I go past the lovely London Eye here on the right-hand side, now the London Eye there was designed for a competition to come up with a new landmark for London for the millennium. And it lost, actually didn't win, only came in second place. But British Airways liked it so much they decided to privately fund it themselves. We're actually going to see what won the competition a little bit later on in the journey today, though, and you can decide for yourselves. Now, head under the Golden Jubilee Bridges here, that's a nice way to cross the river, actually. Got some very nice views from up there. And then over on the right-hand side, the area of South Bank. This whole area was developed for the Festival of Britain that took place here in 1951. The Festival of Britain was basically put on to try and cheer everybody, just to raise their spirits after a long, difficult period of World War II. You can also see the Royal Festival Hall is over there as well, and you've got that little green tonight. That was good for the Festival of Britain, but it's also still today where the London Philharmonic Orchestra is based. And if you do want to see them perform, check out the website, look for the rehearsal time, and all of the rehearsals are fully open and free to attend. So if you get the right timing, you can kind of get a free concert, which is quite nice. Also on the lower level to our right, you might notice there's a lot of graffiti. Now that is not because that area is run down or anything, that is actually the underground skateboarding park, which is the first ever purpose-built skateboard park in the UK, built in 1970. Still much more with skateboarders today. And it's open and free to all, in case you guys want to go down there and pop an ollie later on. Now head under the Waterloo Bridge here. Actually the longest bridge that crosses the river. It doesn't really look good because it's at a slight angle. A lot of this in Central London. Now on the right-hand side of one here, you can see it's looking very nice, low blue here. This is the Royal National Theatre. It has to be said, this building doesn't look as nice during the daytime. In fact, it's actually been voted Britain's ugliest building 5 years in a row. So much so that King Charles once visited it and said he thought it looked like the back end of a nuclear power. Now, all that is views aside, inside there are three really, really beautiful pictures, and it's a great place to catch a West End show before it goes to the West End. Most of the shows that debut in there do go to the West End, but when they're in the National, the tickets are about 1/3 the price. Now, guys, on the right-hand side here, we can see this glowing OXO Tower here. This is my favorite building along the river. I don't know if you guys are familiar with OXO cubes. A very important part of English cooking. They're basically like little squares of compressed beef dust. You put that into water and it turns into stock. English cuisine, the finest in the world, guys, huh? Well, now this building used to be where they manufactured all the OXO cubes, and they got into huge trouble about the tower in 1931 when the building was opened, because the River Thames is officially a royal highway, because the royals go up and down this river by boat sometimes, and it is actually illegal to advertise along a royal highway. So they were taken to court over their tower, but they had a fantastic lawyer, and their lawyer said, oh no, Your Honor, that is not advertising up there, those are just our windows that we have some lights behind, and because there is no law in the UK against what shape your windows can be, they actually won the lawsuit, and the OXO Tower's been there ever since. The company's not even based in there anymore, but the tower sort of became iconic, so they've kept it. On our left-hand side here, we get our first little glimpse of the dome of St. Paul's Cathedral. We'll be seeing a bit more of that now once we pass under these Blackfriar bridges. The whole area of Blackfriars here was named after a Dominican priory that used to be on the north bank. And all the friars in there would wear black cloaks. Which is why they were called the Blackfriars. This is also the lowest bridge we're going on today, guys, so watch your hats, although we are very low in the water today, so we should be okay. Now, St. Paul's Cathedral, again on the left-hand side here, when this building was being designed in the 1700s, do you know what was really popular in England at that time? What everybody in the country was going totally crazy for? That's right, pineapples. Pineapples had just arrived in England, they were new, they were exciting, and boy oh boy were they expensive. One pineapple would have cost you the equivalent of £6,000 back in the day. Which is why, if you look at the back end of St. Paul's Cathedral, you can see there is one golden pineapple on top of each one of the two clock towers back there. And actually, you will see pineapples used as a decorative feature in lots of buildings and bits of architecture from the 1700s, because pineapples were viewed as a symbol of wealth and power. People used to literally rent pineapples so they could walk around town with them under their arm to show off how much money they had. It was kind of like the Louis Vuitton handbag of its day. Now, coming up to Suffolk Bridge here, sometimes called the Lonely Bridge, but this is actually my favourite one because it's the last remaining gaslit bridge in London here. It looks really beautiful down here at night time, guys, and because it's the Lonely Bridge, that means it gets the least foot traffic of any bridge in London, so it's a nice place to get some photographs as well. Now, across on the right-hand side, if you're looking for a warm place to get a drink, ladies and gentlemen, tonight, I definitely recommend the Anchor Bar on our right-hand side here. It's actually been there in one form or another for 400 years. Big favourite drinking hole of lots of famous literary figures, including Shakespeare, Charles Dickens, and the diarist Samuel Pepys. Also, one of the first versions of the English dictionary ever written was partially written in the Anchor Bar, which sort of explains a lot, really, when you think about the spelling. Now, on the right-hand side here, we got the tallest building in London, the Shard. That's 309 metres tall, and it will always be the tallest building too, because that is actually the maximum height you're allowed to build in London, because we have got so many airports around here. Now, you can go up to the top of the Shard for £40, a little bit expensive if you ask me. My advice is don't do that, go to the opposite side. And on the opposite side, you can see the big sort of, the chubby looking walkie-talkie skyscraper just here in front of the bridge. So that tall building has a garden bar in the top called the Sky Garden Bar. It's cool, it's like a greenhouse, there's lots of plants in there. If you book a table in there, even if it's just for a cup of coffee, you get the view for free. So that's a nice little hack. The other thing you can do is on the left here, in between the building with the white scaffolding and the shiny windows, you can see there's a tall stone column there with a golden ball on top. That's the monument to the Great Fire of London. And you can actually go to the top of that for the same view, and that only costs £6. So it's a pretty good deal. The only catch is there's no elevator, so I'm afraid you do have to walk up all 311 steps for that one. Well, now anyway, guys, speaking of wonderful views, well, it's the bridge we all came to see, huh? Oh, it's beautiful. Oh, it's wonderful. Oh, it's amazing. The one and only London Bridge. It's behind us, of course. That's right, that big ugly piece of concrete back there, that's the world famous London Bridge. And the bridge we can see in front now is actually Tower Bridge. But don't feel bad if you ever mix these two bridges up. Lots of people mix these two up. Even Google mixes these two up when you search for an image of the bridge. Now on our way to Tower Bridge here, the boat on our right, this is HMS Belfast. Fired some of the opening shots in the D-Day landings in Normandy in France during World War II. Helped to sink the Scharnhorst, which was Adolf Hitler's favourite boat, and a vessel 3 times its size. And one of its last missions was to go on a resupply of the Soviet Union during World War II via the Arctic Circle, which is why it's still decked out in Arctic camouflage today. You can get a ticket to go on board HMS Belfast. It's about 20 quid a ticket, but if you've got any interest in naval history, I really recommend it. Very unusual to be able to go on board a military ship from that time period of its size and class. I'm a big HMS Belfast fan. Well now guys, we are coming up to Tower Bridge. So Tower Bridge, it's not actually that old. It was completed in 1894, but the Victorians, they wanted it to look old so that it would match the style of the Tower of London that you can see on the left. The Tower of London is much older, founded in 1066 by William the Conqueror, who, fun fact, exploded at his own funeral. That's how I'd like to go out. Now guys, if you're upstairs, if you're downstairs, wherever you are, when we go underneath Tower Bridge, make sure you give a wave to anybody you see up there, because the legend says if you wave to someone on Tower Bridge and they wave back, or vice versa, you get 5 years good luck for you, and in this case the boat and everybody on the boat. This is a real Edwardian legend, because this is the last bridge sailors would go underneath before they went to sea. So all their friends and family would line up along here to wave goodbye to them, in the hope that 5 years later they would get those same waves returned once again. So let's make a little bit of noise, guys, and see if we can get some waves up here. Hello, Tower Bridge! Hello! Oi, oi! Hello, please!
Hello, hello!
Hey! Hey! Yes, sir, there we go, guys. 5 years in the bag. That man has saved us. Thank you, sir.
Hello!
Excellent, gang. Excellent. Now guys, you can see the boat is about to turn to the left, so if you want a nice picture of Tower Bridge, look at the left-hand side here, guys. Whether you're upstairs or if you're downstairs, the left is where you're going to get the best pictures. Be a national hero by all the newspapers, given the day off, and 10 whole pounds. But the best part about the story was there was a guy on board that bus who was getting married at the end of the month. Not only did he invite Albert to the wedding, he even picked up Albert's bride and brought her to the church inside of the bus. Crazy story, guys, but it is actually 100% true. I think they should turn it into a film, really. Now, guys, it's a little bit harder to see at night time, but if you look at the right, see just where the wall is, below the black fence, you can see there's water coming out of a drain over there. And you can see just next to that drain, there are words written along the wall, "Entry to the Traitor's Gate." Now, that's how prisoners used to be brought into the tunnel. They'd be put on small boats, sailed through that little tunnel in the wall, under those words, into the Tower of London. And let me tell you something, guys, that was a one-way system. Because if you went in there, you never ever came out again. A lot of people got executed inside the Tower of London. The two most famous people ever executed in there, probably Anne Boleyn and Catherine Howard, who were two of Henry VIII's wives. They were both in there. And believe it or not, it was actually a great privilege to get executed inside the Tower of London. And that was normally only for the royals. Average people, normal people like you and me, we would not get executed inside the Tower of London. We would get executed outside on Tower Hill for entertainment purposes, of course. And fun fact for you guys, last execution here in London took place in 1868, but the first tube line, the first subway line, which was the Metropolitan, that opened up in 1863. So for a period of 5 years, you would have actually taken the tube to go and witness an execution in the Tower of London. Kind of crazy to think about those time periods all overlapping. But if you do visit the Tower today, I'm afraid you're not going to be able to see anybody get executed. I know, it's a bit disappointing. But hey, you know what? At least you do get to see the crown jewels. They've been in there for 600 years. guarded and protected by the yeoman warders, aka the beef eaters. And the legend says that they're called the beef eaters because the king used to feed them loads of beef to make them big and strong. And you definitely better believe that they are big and strong too, because you only get to do that job if you've done 25 years in the armed forces with a distinguished record. So those are some seriously tough guys. But they're very nice guys too, and they actually live in the Tower of London with their families because protecting the crown jewels is their 24-hour-a-day job. And if you are going to do a tour of the Tower of London, I suggest you do a Beefeater tour. It does cost a little bit more than a regular tour, but nobody knows the Tower of London better than those guys. Now we're coming up to London Bridge here again, and I know I was being a little bit rude about London Bridge. I said it was a big ugly slab of concrete, and it is. But it's also very historically important. There's actually been a bridge on this site for 2,000 years. The first London Bridge we have any record of is from about 50 AD. That was back when London was Londinium, and it was a Roman wooden bridge, originally a pontoon bridge that they turned into a more permanent structure. They kept the wooden bridge going up until 1209, when they installed the first stone bridge here, which was the medieval bridge, and that was crazy busy, because it's the only bridge that crosses the river. By this time, London's turning into a really big city. People are moving in, they want to cross the river. There's only one bridge. Not only are they crossing the river, they're bringing sheep and cattle across as well. It's not a modern bridge, so it's very narrow, and there's houses on the bridge. There are businesses on the bridge. There are tunnels in between some of the houses to get across it, and it is crazy up there. So they said it would take you 30 minutes to go from one side of London Bridge to the other any day, any time during the medieval period, just because of how many people were trying to cross. And of course, with all that wear and tear, it did tend to fall down quite a lot, which is where we get the London Bridge song from. Feel free to join in if you know this one, guys. London Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down. London Bridge is falling down, my fair lady. A lovely song, a very cute little song. They actually sing it 3 times. Oh, thank you very much. And they sing it 3 times in the song because the bridge fell down 3 times in history. And it is a very nice song, but like lots of children's songs, it does have a slightly spooky undertone, something like that. One theory is that the My Fair Lady in the My Fair Lady song is actually a virgin that was bricked up inside the medieval bridge, which might sound crazy, but that was a traditional pre-Christian pagan practice that was sort of still going on during the during the medieval period. So it's possible. They do say that you can hear a wailing down near the base of one of the legs of London Bridge late at night, so watch out. Now, the Millennium Bridge in front of us here, this is what beat the London Eye to be a landmark for London for the millennium, hence the name Millennium Bridge. However, nobody calls this bridge the Millennium Bridge, everybody calls it the Wobbly Bridge, because when this bridge opened up in the year 2000, it was so wobbly and so wibbly that all the people who walked across started to feel very, very sick, and they began to vomit over the side of this bridge. Not just 1 or 2 people either, dozens and dozens of them, which is not good news if you're on an open top boat out here, let me tell you. So this bridge, it was only open for 2 weeks in the year 2000 after its grand opening. They had to close the thing for 2 years and even get a NASA engineer to help them take the wobble out. So it doesn't wobble anymore, guys, but everybody still calls it the Wobbly Bridge. Now, you might have also seen this Wobbly Bridge in some movies too, because it comes up in lots of movies. It was in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, getting attacked and destroyed by the Death Eaters. It was in London Has Fallen, getting attacked and destroyed by some terrorists. It was in The Avengers, getting attacked and destroyed by aliens. So basically, what I'm saying is, guys, if you see the Wobbly Bridge in a movie, it's probably going to get attacked and destroyed. We don't know why, but Hollywood absolutely loves blowing this bridge up for some reason. I like to think maybe one of the Hollywood execs was on the bridge the time it was all wobbly and they had to get sick. Now heading back to the Blackfriars bridges here again, guys, and in between the Blackfriar bridges you will notice as we go through, gang, on either side to the left and the right there's a weird collection of red pillars in the middle that are holding up absolutely nothing. They used to hold up St. Paul's Bridge, but just like many of our bridges around here, St. Paul's began to fall apart under the weight of the more modern trades. So in the 1980s they began to deconstruct St. Paul's and to build the two new bridges we see here today around it. However, by the time they'd finished the two new bridges and they were about to remove the pillars in the middle, they realised much too late that the Victorians had built these pillars too well, and the only way they could possibly take them out of the ground would be to use dynamite. And of course, if they did use dynamite, they would only end up blowing up the two new bridges that they just built. So just like all good builders, they just kind of left them there and hoped nobody would notice. But we do end up pointing them out about 10 times a day now as we go through. I think we should put something on top of the pillars. Have a look at them because they look so grandy. I think we should put statues up there, you know. Maybe Sonic the Hedgehog and Super Mario and I don't know, you know. It seems like a waste just to leave them empty, doesn't it? Now, speaking of construction and building and all that stuff, on the right-hand side there's a lot of construction equipment, a lot of diggers, cranes and things. That's because they are currently building a brand new sewer system here in London. And just like everything in England, I mean, you can't just give it a normal name, guys. No, no, no. You gotta put it up and allow the public to give it a fun nickname. So they did an online sort of survey thing, and the Londoners have decided they want to nickname the new sewage system the Super Pooper. Of course. But now it has to be said that the River Thames does not have a very good reputation when it comes to sewage. Historically speaking, this river was filthy. However, that all changed with the advent of the Bazalgette sewage system that was built here in about the 1850s. Because in 1856 there was an event known as the Great Stink, or the Big Stink, depending on who's reporting it. And the Big Stink was basically, the river became so smelly that they were actually petitioning to move Parliament because the politicians couldn't concentrate because of how stinky it was. So then they said, okay, we'll invent sewage. So they installed the new Bazalgette system, and the quality of the water has only been improving ever since then. So today, the River Thames is now actually one of the cleanest urban rivers in the world. And because of that, there are now over 120 different species of sea life documented living in the River Thames. And I do say sea life, not water life, because sometimes people don't realize all of this water is salt water. This does not become fresh water till much, much further up the river. So we got all sorts of sea creatures in the Thames. We have got seahorses in the Thames. We have got seals in the Thames. We see seals at least 2 or 3 times a week. We have got dolphins in the Thames. And of course, sharks. That's right, 6-foot-long taupe sharks do actually come into the River Thames a lot. Now they don't come up this far, where we are right here, but down near Tower Bridge going towards Canary Wharf, they're there all the time, guys. So just another reason not to go swimming in the River Thames. The water, when I say that, just to clarify, the water is relatively clean, but the tide here is very, very dangerous, so definitely don't recommend going for a dip. Now we are coming up towards Waterloo Bridge here again. Waterloo. Now Waterloo Bridge is actually sometimes called the Ladies' Bridge, because this bridge we can see in front of us here was built 100% by women when all the men were away fighting in Europe in World War II. And fun fact for you guys, this bridge, built 100% by women, is also the only bridge in all of London's long, long history that was ever completed ahead of schedule and under budget. That's right, guys. If you want it done right, you know who you gotta call, huh? Oh, and I should point out as well that they were literally being bombed as they built the bridge. So there you go, even more badass. Now, directly ahead of us, guys, to the right-hand side, we have got the Savoy Hotel coming up. It's just just ever so slightly on the other side of the Waterloo Bridge. Now, the Savoy Hotel, it was one of the first ever luxury hotels built in the world, certainly the first in London. And everyone you can imagine has stayed in this hotel. I mean, back in the day, it used to be Charlie Chaplin, Marilyn Monroe. Today you get your Obamas, your Justin Timberlakes, your Justin Biebers, your Taylor Swifts. They all stay in this building just on the right-hand side here, guys. It's the slightly taller of the two here at the Green Tower room. Lovely hotel. You can get a room in there for £1,000 a night for the regular room. But if you guys really want to go crazy, check out the Royal Suite, 18 grand a night, minimum 3-night stay. So, slightly out of my price range, gang, but you know, I'm sure it's lovely. Also on the right here, guys, it's slightly harder to see at night time, but I think you should still be able to make it out. This tall stone column to our right-hand side here, this is Cleopatra's Needle, 3,500 years old, so that is even older than London. It was a gift from the Egyptian government, also making it quite unique in the sense that it's one of the only pieces of Egyptology you can see in London that wasn't stolen. That one was actually a gift. And if you look at the bottom, you can see there is one sphinx on either side of the obelisk. Now, the sphinx, traditionally speaking, should be facing inwards so as to ward off evil, but unfortunately the good old Victorians did not realise that, so they have placed them facing outwards here, which means they are quite literally inviting in all the evil that is around. So because of that, this is the only place on planet Earth where you will ever see two sphinxes facing each other, because apparently it is insanely bad luck to do that. Now, we're heading under the Golden Jubilee bridges, guys. We're going to be making our way back towards the dock in a few minutes. Now, once we start to tie up the boat, guys, even when we're right next to the dock, it still takes 2 or 3 minutes to get safely tied up. So my advice is don't rush the exit, guys. You just end up squashed by the door. Kick back and relax, and as soon as those doors open, I will let you know on the mic. The toilets on board will now be closed for cleaning, guys, but there's plenty of toilets along the south bank if you do need them there. Anyway, there's a few more bits and pieces to look at around here. So over on the right-hand side, we have a beautiful boat here, the Pub on the Thames boat. Nice kind of riverside pub, fun atmosphere in there, it's a good time. And then next to that, there's a golden eagle of a statue. Statue of an eagle, it's been a long day. The Royal Air Force Memorial Monument is what that is, over on the right. The building you can see behind the Pub on the Thames and that monument with all the little lights on there, that is the Ministry of Defence, the MOD. Some people call this building the iceberg because the part you can see on top is only a very small amount of that building. Most of that building is actually deep underground. Now, we don't know how deep it goes down. Some people say it's 10 stories down, some people say it's 30, 40 stories down, we don't know. But we do know that underneath that building there's actually a nuclear bunker. Underneath that building there are secret tunnels that connect over all the way to the Houses of Parliament and then down to 10 Downing Street. So in the event of some kind of a nuclear catastrophe, don't worry guys, all of our politicians will be A-OK. Phew. But actually, in 1999, the Ministry of Defence did take the London Eye to court because they said the London Eye might be a kind of a national security risk because of all the spies. They said that the sneaky spies would be able to go to the top of the London Eye and look down into the windows of the Ministry of Defence. Luckily for us, however, the judge threw that case out of the courtroom, and this is an actual real quote, it's a direct quote from the judge. He said, "You are the Ministry of Defence. Buy some curtains." It's kind of a sassy ruling from the judge on that one. And now here we are, guys, back at the London Eye. Now, obviously, as you know, guys, the London Eye is closed at the moment, so just for us to do the maintenance on it. So this is one time a year when there isn't any romance going on out there, because let me tell you guys, lots of the time it's a very romantic place. There have actually been 6,003 marriage proposals on the London Eye at the very top since it opened up in the year 2000. 6,003, pretty good going. Now, I should also probably tell you guys there has been 14 rejections as well. Chris is keeping a log in the office. And just so you know, gang, it does take about 30 minutes to do the whole thing, to go all the way around. So if you're planning to ask anybody to marry you at the top, just do make sure you've done your research, all right? Because a Otherwise, it's a fairly rough 15 minutes coming back down. Especially with the old automatic photo at the end. Oof. Well, anyway, oh good, and the ropes are groaning there as if in response to my terrible jokes. Right, well guys, we're nearly here now, just getting tied up. We just want to say a big thank you for joining us on board this evening. I know it was very, very cold, guys, but I do hope you managed to get some good pictures and you had a nice time nonetheless. If you have enjoyed your tour this evening, guys, feel free to write us a review on TripAdvisor or the little feedback machines on shore. That really helps because it lets our bosses know we're doing a good job. If you enjoyed the cruise tonight, please do mention my name. My name is Alan. If for some reason you didn't enjoy the cruise tonight, my name is John. Yeah, here's the other one. Feel free to write whatever you want about him. Right, guys, yeah, the gangplank's coming down, so it's now safe to exit the boat, and we hope you guys have a lovely evening. Thank you, bye-bye.